Hey, this is B from Kongs R Us, and one of my biggest complaints I've had about my @games Legends Pinball is the poor user interface design, which in some areas, it really sucks. However, @games has always been open to listening to community feedback, so here's my top 5 UI fixes wish list to help unsuck the Legends Pinball user interface and hopefully make it easier for everyone to use. Check it out. How do you feel about the Legends Pinball user interface? Why do you say that?
It was so many buttons just to press to get around what you need to do, so my gosh.
The number one issue I have with my Legends Pinball UI is that the select and back buttons change when you're navigating various parts of the system. So to understand this issue, we first have to look at the existing button layout and symbols on the front of the Legends Pinball. On the left side, there's a red rewind button with 2 left-facing arrows and a white forward nudge button with a vibrating up arrow design. On the coin door, there's a square start button with a standard play symbol and a square home button with an @games logo symbol. Now you'd think it'd be intuitive to match what functions these buttons have, but there's a fair amount of decoding to understand what gets used when you first start the system. In the instruction manual, the red button is actually called the rewind select button, but when you look at the bottom of each menu screen, there's a legend for which button does what. So for example, on the main menu for selecting your pinball tables, the start button is your select button, and when you press it, you finally get to a page that shows pictures of the button logos and what functions they should have, including the rewind button, which shows as a back button. Now we press the start button to finally load up one of the stock Gottlieb tables, but this is where things get loopy. When pressing the home button, we get into the menu settings. However, you can now see the button functions have completely changed. The rewind button now becomes the select function, and the home button now becomes the back function. And the original start button you used to select the game in the first place now does nothing at all in the menu. To actually exit a game, you have to navigate to the quit game section and press the rewind button to select quit game. The same button mix-up happens during the Zaccaria tables as well as other areas in the system. For example, when playing ArcadeNet, you navigate the main menu and press the start button to select and enter a game. To exit, you have to press the home button to open up a tiny pop-up menu tab, navigate to the exit tab, and again, instead of pressing the start button to select, you have to press rewind to exit and confirm. When playing games via add-on X, again, you can select the game using the start button to enter, and while you're in game, you press the home button to bring up the menu. But now the select button is actually button A, which isn't anywhere on your control panel. It doesn't exist, so you need to either have a Bluetooth controller or eventually install the Pinball Arcade controller to be able to select something in this menu. Overall, I'd love to see a rehaul of the button function mapping across the entire platform to standardize making the start button function is select for all games and menus, and the rewind button function is back for everything. This makes the most sense to me as it's how you naturally select and back out in the main menu, and hopefully it should stay the same throughout the entire system. Number 2 on my UI fix list is organizing the settings tab alphabetically. Hopefully this is an easy fix, as it's currently hard to navigate through the 26 various setting options across 3 pages, and I don't see them organized in any way that makes sense to me. I can maybe see why Wi-Fi is listed as the first one, because that's one of the things you first need to do when you set up the machine, but with so many other available options, I think it would have been easier to search for Wi-Fi towards the back of the menu if I knew it was actually alphabetized. For now, I've gotten used to remembering that my pinball settings are on page 3, my flash drive X icon is at the bottom of page 2, but I can't find any other options without having to scroll back and forth through multiple pages, so please alphabetize these settings. Speaking of updating the options menu, my number 3 fix would be moving the accelerometer nudge calibration settings directly into the main settings options instead of in-game. Currently, before you start using the accelerometer to physically nudge your table, you have to go into an actual game, navigate to page 4 of the settings menu, and then find the calibration tool. Calibration is super simple, and then it seems to apply the settings to the entire cabinet across all tables. However, it feels like this calibration feature should have been in the main menu settings on its own instead of in-game, as it was hard to find when I first set up my table. UI fix number 4 has to do with the AppStoreX tab and its poorly designed user interface to add official game packs to your Legends Pinball. This should have been an awesome online marketplace that Legends Pinball owners can browse, purchase, download, and install additional pinball tables like the Zaccaria packs. Instead, we have a bare bones interface, and when you select one of the packs, there's basic information about the game, a table list, and a note stating that tables need to be downloaded to flash drive X and the packs can be purchased on the @games website. There's no on-screen instructions that talk about setting up flash drive X, and there's not even any indication that you need to use a separate USB drive, and at the bottom of the screen, it only gives you two options that say start and back. So once a user does find out how to set up flash drive X, purchases the packs online, they receive a redemption code, but where do you actually enter the code? I see only a start and a back option on this page. You actually have to be on the main AppStoreX page, navigate to the pack you purchased, and press the home button to bring up the redemption code screen. This should have been added to the page after you select the pack and purchased it, with more written instructions on screen how to redeem, download, and install the packs. Another little nitpick is that the start function on screen really isn't start button, but actually brings up an installation screen, so hopefully they can change this to actually say install instead of start. Lastly, both Pixelcade X and CoinOps X have very little information about what they are and how to use them, so having some on-screen information would be really helpful for some of the new users to the AtGames ecosystem. Now, my last UI fix might be harder to implement as it might require an entire redesign of the UI, but I want the home button to function as a true home button. The problem is we don't have a true home screen to navigate back to, and the current AtGames UI uses tabs across the top of the screen to switch menus, so no matter where you are in the system, you have to move the D-pad all the way up to get back to the tabs and switch menus. A proper home button requires a proper home screen so that when pressed, it'll automatically take users back to that home screen where you can navigate and switch menus easily. Instead, the home button actually acts as another function in the main menus where it brings up filter options on several of the menu pages. So here's to hoping that we get some updated UI interface changes where we can leverage having a home button taking us back to a home screen so we can switch options as we need to. Although it may seem like I'm being nitpicky, I actually have really high hopes since AtGames has been releasing regular firmware updates every few weeks, and I've been so invested in the potential that the Legends Pinball has to become an awesome system. It's great to know that AtGames leadership listens to community feedback, so I truly hope this list becomes obsolete in the next few months if they can implement some of the fixes. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my top 5 UI fixes, or if you have any suggestions for improvement yourself. As always, thanks for watching and taking it to the next level.